Okay, go for it.
Hello, thank you so much for joining us today here at the speaker series with Mrs. Allen's class. This is our weekly talk to a business owner or someone with a super inspiring career. And today you're going to get to hear from Gwenn Vallone. She's going to talk to us about nonprofits and about Pug Nation LA, which is a dog rescue here in Los Angeles. And also there's some opportunities for students to be able to help out, and really for anybody else to be able to help out. Thank you so much for joining us today, Gwenn. Will you tell us your story?
Sure, it's a pleasure to be here. Hello, everybody. Good afternoon. My name is Gwenn, and I'm the director here at Pug Nation Rescue. We're a nonprofit rescue that specializes in pugs and some pug mixes. So we get them out of shelters. We take owner relinquishments from people who can't care for their dogs. And if strays are found and nobody comes forward for the dog, we take care of strays as well. I grew up in Connecticut, and I always loved dogs from as long as I could remember. And I pictured myself somehow taking care of all the mutts in the world that nobody wanted. So I did little small deeds as a kid, trying to do what I could for stray dogs or stray animals. Went to high school, got a job at a grocery store as a cashier in Connecticut. I didn't have much opportunity to go to a university, either family support or financial support. So I came out to California because my sister said I could go to junior college for virtually free once I was a resident. So I tried to take advantage of that. So I was attending Santa Monica College, and at the same time was working again in a grocery store and doing what I could. I got a job as a word processor, and way back before everyone had their own computer and everything, people actually came to get that service. So I knew how to type and everything. And I ended up falling into direct mail as a career. Sorry, I didn't turn my ringer off my phone. So while I was doing that, of course, I was involved with animals as best I could be. I went to Santa Monica College and got an associate's in business because I knew I wanted to continue with some sort of business. At the same time, I joined Best Friends Animal Society, which maybe some of you have heard of. It's a huge animal organization. I joined as a volunteer, and right now they are known locally as NKLA, No Kill Los Angeles. They have a couple of adoption centers, so maybe you guys know about it. But back then, because of my passion for animals, I joined what was called Best Friends Brigade, and they sent us out to shelters in need. So I was volunteering that way, whether it was mowing the lawn, picking up poop, painting the shelters. And I ran into a shelter that had a ton of pugs. They let the pugs go, and I was sitting on the ground, and all these pugs came and they were snorting on me, and I fell in love with the breed immediately. I didn't even know what a pug was, to tell you the truth. So I continued to volunteer through Best Friends, and I was at a super adoption, and they still have those now. But back then it was rescues, and the city shelters, they would come with adoptable dogs twice a year. It was a huge event. And that particular year I was volunteering, and they put me in the cat tent. And I love cats. I've had 3 or 4 during my life, but dogs are my number one passion. But I was volunteering in the cat tent, and I took a break, and I was walking around this super adoption with dogs everywhere. And I happened upon a Pug Rescue. They had a booth there. And I was like, oh, these are these dogs that I loved, you know? And I started talking to the woman who ran that rescue. And she said, we need volunteers. We need volunteers now. So I hate to admit this, but I ditched the cat tent and I stayed and helped the Pug Rescue. So I came back the next day to help again, and that's kind of how I was steered towards pugs and a more specific breed rescue in general. So for the next, I would say, 9 years or so, I faithfully volunteered with that pug rescue. I think when you're thinking about careers, I never dreamed that I could have a career doing my passion. And most of us go out and make money however we can. And I was kind of doing that in the direct mail field, but I was still feeding my passion and trying to do good through rescue. So after volunteering for years, that rescue started to have a lot of problems, and the dogs weren't getting what they needed. So I think another thing that's important with success is standing up for what you think is right and doing what you think needs to be done. So I kind of challenged the woman who was running the rescue, and got some volunteers together to see if she needed our help. What could we do for these dogs? Unfortunately, she wasn't open to that. So we decided as volunteers for that rescue, and I headed up a volunteer little corps and got everyone together and thought, we need to start our own nonprofit. It was a hard decision to make, but the pugs needed help. So we went about filing with the state of California and with the IRS for our nonprofit. And it seemed daunting at the time, because if you're thinking about, oh my gosh, the IRS, the state of California, it did seem daunting. But if you take the small steps, follow directions, it actually went quite smoothly. So once we got our nonprofit status, that was probably in 2011, we approached the woman who was running the rescue. She abandoned it, unfortunately. So it was a good thing we were in position to kind of make our own rescue. We went about finding donors, which for the nonprofit sector is key. You obviously can't do anything unless you're funded. And we got some of the major donors to come with us. We found a building. We built into the building. This was all a process, of course.
I saw that building on your Instagram.
Yeah, we're very fortunate to have that building. And right now we're excuse me, building into a new building, which is a different story. But we were able to siphon the pugs that needed help at her facility, since it was kind of abandoned. And while we were building in, we did that, and then we were able to move the pugs down here. In the meantime, I, go back about 9 years, I took a big chance and started my own direct mail company. I was feeding my passion by volunteering, but everyone has to make a living. So I took a little leap of faith and started my own little direct mail company with my business experience, and was doing both the rescue and my company at one time. Maybe 3 or 4 years into it, once we were established with our facility and our nonprofit and we got going, I went to the board, because another thing that's important when you're working out in the world and trying to do all of these things, you have to realize when you're spread too thin. And I was running my company to support myself. I was running Pug Nation, but it was too much. So what was really fortunate is we have one big donor, and I went to her and I said, someone needs to run Pug Nation full time. And because of my business background and then my obvious rescue experience, I thought I was the person to do it, and my passion. And since I started it with the board, so fortunately, she was able to offer me a salary above and beyond what she already gave for the pugs. And I sold my business, which was a big decision, because I ran it for 15 years. But I knew in my heart what I wanted to do. And if I was able to support myself by doing what I was passionate about. I consider myself very fortunate. Sold the mailing business, and about 5.5 years ago, I was able to come over to Pug Nation full time. And that's when we really started rolling, because before that, it was hard to manage off-site. But we installed a good volunteer program, cultivated more donors, put a lot of things in the last 5 years. And we're hoping to move forward with a new building. We were gifted a building, and we're presently building into it. So that's a huge part of our next phase for Pug Nation. So that's kind of the background story. You know, the basic was I was always doing what I was passionate about. I was doing things to support myself, and just everything lined up, and hard work and dedication, and I was able to ultimately do what I really wanted to do for a living.
That is so cool. We have a lot of student questions already coming in.
Awesome.
So what is the work? What's direct mail? Can you explain that? And has it helped you at your job now, at your business now?
Yeah, my experience running a bigger firm and then my own firm really has helped, because the thing about nonprofits is, of course, we're all passionate about the dogs. We all want to help dogs. Everything's centered around the dogs. But it really has to be run like a business. And a lot of people that volunteer or are passionate don't understand that part. So I feel like running my own business for all that time really helped me. What direct mail is it's the printing and the database management of the mailing list. So if, let's say, you got a vote by mail ballot, direct mail companies are the ones who print those, do the mailing list, sort it for the post office, and get the mail in the mail. So yes, some of it's junk mail, but some of it is very important. So that's what a direct mailing company does, basically.
Right. And what do you think, from Cheyenne, what do you think is the hardest part of your job now?
Cheyenne. The hardest part is, I think, the emotional part. Because we see the very worst of human beings that neglect or abuse dogs, but we also see the very best of human beings. I mean, I can make a call right now, and if there was a homeless dog in Vegas, someone would literally drive the 4 hours there and back to get this dog and rescue this dog. So I would say the emotional part is difficult at times.
I believe it. Can you share when you created the nonprofit, what kind of help did you have? I know you shared that you had a donor, and there were other people that were at the one you were formerly with.
Well, thankfully, what happened was, when it was obvious we had to do something and step in for all these dogs at the other rescue, I called a meeting and called any volunteers that were interested in forming a new nonprofit and helping. So I don't even remember, it was 9-10 years ago, but maybe 20 people showed up. And right then and there, we formed a board. We had a secretary, a president, a vice president, etc. And those people, there were a core 7 of us that started. Those people really helped. So, you know, a few people were in charge of filing for the IRS nonprofit part, a few people for the state, a few people to cultivate the donors. So it was kind of a team effort. There was no way I could have done it by myself.
So that leads us to talking about the nonprofits. I think it's a misconception among my some of my students. They think just because it's a nonprofit that nobody makes any money. Or
yes.
you don't take a salary, but that's not true. People
Right.
have to work and live. And
exactly. There are a ton of nonprofits in the world, and you know, volunteers are the lifeblood of nonprofits. because if you had to pay everyone, it would be really hard to do. However, volunteers have their own life, their own problems, their own jobs. And so to really count on people and really have them here day in and day out, there has to be a staff. So we are fortunate that, you know, like I said, I'm fortunate that I'm paid a salary and my staff here, the kennel workers, are paid a salary. So it's a little of both. You have volunteers, but yes, nonprofits, the executives like myself that are responsible for everything do pull a salary. And I have to admit, at first, I almost felt guilty because for 30 years, I did this for free. You know, when I started Pug Nation the first 4 years, I did everything for free. So I felt it kind of weird actually pulling a salary. But when you work as hard as I do, it took about a year, like, Gwen, it's okay, you deserve this, you work hard. And I feel like my worth, and even my employees' worth, they make the nonprofit money. So that's why people are paid for nonprofit work.
Yeah. And Serena's asking about specific pug stories. Do you have any that really stand out to you?
Oh, Serena, we have so many. There's one that stands out. There was a pug at a vet, and they called us. And what happened was this pug came in with 2 broken elbows, front feet.
Oh.
And the family they paid for a surgery, and they were told, you know, you have to keep her calm, you have to keep her crated until they heal. And they didn't. So she broke them again. And then the family didn't take care of her, but they didn't want to relinquish her. So this poor dog was at the vet for 9 months with broken elbows. And so finally she was relinquished to us. And she was described that to me that she just walked on her back legs, almost like a penguin, and her front legs just hung there. And I'm like, how could this be? And I'll never forget, and this was probably 4 or 5 years ago, the first time I saw this amazing dog. Like, she used her chin to prop herself up, and she walked on her back legs, and her legs were hanging there. It was crazy. And so the vets eventually said that they thought her arms should be amputated because they were painful. And we had this great foster, and her arms were amputated. It sounds horrible, but I have to tell you, this dog is the happiest, most active dog you'll ever see. In fact, I could send you, Kim, the link to the YouTube story so you could see her story. And I follow the woman on Facebook that adopted her, and her name is Bella, the pug. So happy, full life, no arms in the front. So that was one that stands out to me.
It's amazing how they're so not aware of themselves even sometimes. You know, I was just looking at my dog, who I think is just so pretty. And I said, she has like no awareness that she is the prettiest thing in my whole house.
That's one thing about dogs. You know, we have all sorts of dogs, but we do have a lot of handicapped dogs. And these dogs, they don't feel sorry for themselves. They just figure out a way to get where they need to go or get what they need to do. And they don't even hesitate. They don't know not anything is wrong with them. And that's how Bella was, you know, all she went through, but she was crazy and full of personality. So
I love it.
Yeah.
Katrina is asking, how many pugs do you think you have rescued?
I think we have saved over 1,600 pugs since we've started.
Oh my gosh. Wow.
Yeah, we range from like 200 to 250 a year.
Wow.
Yeah, we have a little graphic on the front page of our website, and we keep count. But I think it's around there, 1,500, 1,600.
Wow. Has COVID-19 affected your work? That question comes from Daniel.
Yeah, we've adjusted. You know, we used to go out in person to do house checks. So if someone wants to adopt, they have to put in an application, and then we physically go to their house to check for safety and meet the people. But now we've just moved to virtual house checks, which is worked out pretty well. And because everyone's home and has time, our adoptions have skyrocketed, and our population went from 45 dogs, and now I think we're about at 18 at the moment, which is our all-time low. So I think dogs have benefited from the virus because all their owners are home and a lot of people are fostering and adopting that weren't before.
Yeah, me and Fluffy spend a lot of time together.
Fluffy's thrilled, right?
Yes, she is. Although I will tell you, she has a lot more separation anxiety than she ever did.
Yeah, that's the scary part. When people go back to work, the dogs are going to be like, where is everybody, right?
Maybe I'll have to bring her to school. I'll ask my boss. Let's see what happens. So
There you go.
Zephania wants to know, what are some of the main differences between running a nonprofit or a for-profit business?
I think the main difference is the nonprofits have to rely solely on donations. So a for-profit business like my mailing, you know, people pay me to do mail, people pay me to do computer programming and everything. So it was like a service or a product for money. But for nonprofits, we have to rely on people that don't need anything from us really to support our mission. So that's the main difference.
And why did you, so you're in Burbank, right?
No, we're in Gardena.
Gardena,
We're in the South Bay.
What made you pick that area?
First of all, we wanted somewhere somewhat cool because pugs are very heat sensitive. I, at the time, lived in Torrance, and my mailing business was in Torrance. So if I was going to be running back and forth, had to be in this area. And it was very difficult to find a warehouse type place that we needed that was zoned correctly, because you can't have a dog kennel wherever you want. So basically we went where the properties were and ended up in Gardena.
I think we have a couple more questions. Do you think the things you are doing right now hold more value than the money you earned from your past business? Like Joey saying that, is it more rewarding, you know?
A billion %. That's what I mean. Like, I was getting the reward from rescue before I came over here, and I did it for free. I think a total of 20 years in rescue for free. It was so rewarding. But to not have to worry about a mailing business or something and put 100% of my attention into rescuing pugs, it's the most rewarding thing ever. I mean, it was an easy decision for me. Yes.
That's a great question. Thank you.
Yeah.
And how can people find out about the steps to creating a nonprofit? How did you find out about them?
I think like on irs.gov, you could go on there and figure that out. And, you know, there's mentors out there. Like, there are actually a lot of people who contact me that want to get into dog rescue, and I'm more than happy to have them come or show them around and tell them the steps and the ways to do it. I think with any business, whether it's a nonprofit or a for-profit business, starting small and not overextending yourself is really important.
Makes sense. Okay, I think we're ready to see the dogs.
Oh, okay.
Okay,
so first of all, hold on one second. Can you This is Gumpy. And I actually adopted him myself.
I can see why.
He was relinquished by his owners because he has some brain issues and he doesn't walk too well. So they said they were moving into a 3-story place and he can't do stairs. So he's only 2 or 3. He has a few neurological issues, but I just love him. And he loves me.
He's got good timing.
Yeah. So do you want me to try and go out there in the bedlam and walk around a little bit?
I would love it.
Okay.
More dogs, more better.
Okay, it gets pretty wild out there, but let's see what we can do.
Are you guys ready for this?
Okay. Oh, here's how I turn around, right? Okay,
And
here we go.
also, I am gonna put in the caption underneath the video how you can get in touch with Gwen and also opportunities for volunteering. So you'll be able to see that.
Okay, so
Nice.
like I said, we only have like 16, 18 dogs. Usually this is packed. But the one thing I love about the rescue is it's free roaming. A lot of people
Right.
take dogs and keep them in little kennels, but we want them to run around and have a lot of room. So I'll just walk you through. We have a lot of puggles and chugs, which are half Chihuahua, half pug.
Oh yeah. Oh my gosh. Are you guys loving this? Look at this. Look at this. Oh, look at his ears.
He's also mine. This is Otter. He only has kind of one good leg, but he's pretty rowdy.
1 out of 4?
Yeah, he has deformed legs. And it was kind of sad his owner died. I know, Otter. His owner died, so we got him from the shelter, and I felt sorry for him, so I adopted him. Here's Firecracker. He has some hind end weakness, but he's kind of crazy and has a good time.
Oh, I saw him on your Instagram this morning, I think, or this week.
Oh yeah, he had a hat on. And then this is Bane. And this is Leroy. And we also have a few Frenchies. This is Idaho. Hello. And we have little Zelda, who is a stray.
Oh, she's so beautiful.
And we have some more chugs over there. So that's basically our babies. There goes Otter. Look how fast he is, even though he can't walk. Oh,
He is on one leg. Oh my gosh.
and this, I have 3 of my own. This is my other guy, Chowder. He's mine. Isn't he beautiful?
So darling. Hi,
So
Chowder.
that's a little quick tour.
That's
All right.
awesome. And everybody can see even more on your Instagram. I know that.
Yes, and our website and everything for more
Okay.
information.
I'll link all that below. Thank you so much for
You're
spending
welcome.
time with us today and sharing about nonprofit and about the baby pugs. I'll put your
Yep.
information below so people know where to reach you too. Thanks, Gwen.
Yeah, anytime. And if anyone has more questions, I'm more than willing to help.
Sounds good. Thank you.